morning, I'm Bill Daughtry. This is New York Sports and Beyond on 98.7 ESPN, our weekly public affairs program, where our goal is to entertain, enlighten, and expose you to information that could lead to positive change in your life or the lives of your loved ones. Healing and support, the focus of today's program. Up next, the veteran suicide rate here in the United States. Would you believe we average 20 veteran suicides a day? Tom Spooner's returned from the front lines of defending this country to the front lines now of helping veterans and first responders. We'll talk with Tom Spooner, a veteran of the U.S. military and co-founder of Warrior's Heart and Mission 22. Tom Spooner joins me next. I'm Bill Daughtry. This is New York Sports and Beyond on 98.7 ESPN. Bill Daughtry back on New York Sports and Beyond with U.S. military veteran Tom Spooner, who is also the co-founder of a couple of organizations who are trying to help the men and women of the U.S. Armed Forces through their post-military life. We average about 20 veteran suicides a day, and those suicides and the struggles of those veterans is what is at the heart of Warrior's Heart and Mission 22. Tom Spooner, welcome to the program.
Thanks a lot, Bill. Thanks for having me.
Well, first of all, thank you for your service. You were in the U.S. Armed Forces for, about 21 years?
Yes, sir, almost 21 years, and it was absolutely my pleasure.
Well, talk a bit, if you would, about your service.
Okay, Bill, I came into the military in 1990 whenever I was 20 years old, and I was a private in the 82nd during the Gulf War. So as soon as I got into the military, I was exposed to combat. And then for the next 5 years, I was in the 82nd from 1990 to 1995. And then from 1995 to 2001, I was in 7th Special Forces Group, and all pre-9/11, and we deployed to Central and South America, mainly training other folks. And then from 2001 and to 2011, I was out at Delta, where I had 12 deployments and 40 total months time in combat. And then I retired in 2011.
So you, Tom Spooner, have basically seen it all as a well-traveled and well-versed and experienced veteran of our armed forces. And now you come home and you're fighting all kinds of personal demons that not only led you to fight for yourself, but now you fight for others with Warrior's Heart. Tell me about this.
Yeah, Bill. So whenever I got out, I had a lot of struggles. And the thing with me, I didn't struggle with chemical dependencies at the time. I didn't have any of that. I had an awesome family and support network. Strong spiritual beliefs. I was totally set up, for success. And I almost became one of those 20 suicides, just as a accumulation of a human experience in combat. And so I went through a bunch of different therapies, and all of it helped me and worked. And I just couldn't imagine, other military members having the same amount of struggles, because it was hard for me to find help at that time. And so I was really motivated through my own personal struggles, and I know that the only way to get better is to serve others. So then initially what we did was we formed Mission 22, and its focus is to bring awareness, because most folks just aren't even aware of the veteran suicide rate, which at the time was 22 a day, and now it's at 20 as far as the reported numbers. And then we found out that the majority of those, I don't have exact percentages, but the majority of those suicides, had to deal with chemical dependency or self-medication. So, that was the next thing that we started looking at was, okay, how can we create this space to get this healing that these guys need, so they don't take their own lives and die in what we call the war at home. And that's why we came up with Warrior's Heart.
Tom Spooner is my guest. He's a veteran of the U.S. military, served in the 82nd Airborne Special Forces. I mean, he's done it all, both on and off the battlefield. And now he is helping those who have obviously walked in his shoes with the creation of Warrior's Heart and Mission 22. Tom, why do we need private treatment options for veterans? I mean, we have the VA program. Why do we need these private treatment options?
Yeah, that's a great question, Bill. You know, there's a couple of reasons, and one of the big reasons is all of our population, which is, you know, military veterans and first responders. You know, they need the ability to have anonymity during the healing process, because there's a lot of stigmas that, you know, if you have PTSD or you're struggling with things emotionally or mentally, that makes you weak, which we all know is not true. So, you know, with it being a private facility, it's governed by HIPAA law. So it gives the same rights and privacies that you would have if you visited any other doctor. And then the problem with the VA, you know, the problem with the VA is just that, you know, it's very overwhelmed. And then we've been at war for 15 years, and the backlog that they're trying to deal with is just insurmountable. So much like the VA does with other programs, and that's outsourced expertise. You know, that's why we wanted to create Warrior's Heart, so we would have that venue not only for our military and veterans, but for all of those first responders that take care of us. You know, because all these people take care of us whenever we call them, which is usually a life or death situation. And then the question becomes, who's taking care of them? You know, and at Warrior's Hearts, that's what we are doing. We take care of those that take care of us.
Is it the peer-to-peer factor that makes this so helpful?
It is, Bill. And that's why we kept the population the same. And when I say the same, obviously different experience, but it's a shared struggle. Say if it was a combat veteran sitting next to a paramedic, their experiences are much different. But the matters of the heart and the life and death struggles, sometimes on a daily basis, you know, they can relate to it and they can share with one another without having to explain. Much like, you know, a football player, you know, helping out another football player, you know, the same thing. The peer-to-peer network is super important.
Talking with Tom Spooner, he is the co-founder of Warrior's Heart and Mission 22, fighting the battle to save those veteran lives. As we average about 20 veteran suicides a day, which is down from 22, which was part of the reason for the name Mission 22. So, Tom, it appears that you are winning the battle. And something I think is very important that you mentioned when you talk about first responders. You don't necessarily have to go to a battlefield to suffer some of the ravages of war.
No, absolutely not, Bill. And you know, our first responders, you know, they face that life and death, you know, on a daily basis, you know, here at home. And that's why it just makes sense, you know, that we can work in it together, because even though with the military, all the work is overseas, you know, I mean, there's a large portions of our country where they're basically at combat every day, you know, and most people don't know that the law enforcement suicide rate, you know, is 1 every 17 hours. So, you know, there's a lot going on here in the States, and, you know, that's what we're trying to address.
Tom, before I let you go, tell me about the War at Home Memorial.
Absolutely. It's one of my favorites. So the War at Home Memorial is dedicated from Mission 22. It's silhouettes that are cut out of actual humans, you know, that have lost their war at home, you know, and taken their own lives. And it's put on Warrior's Heart is the initial place for it. It's going to eventually move around the country, semi-permanent, but it's meant to amend the damage that's been done. You know, it's meant to honor the family members and the loved ones that are lost with dignity and respect. And then through that process, you know, is the whole prevention to keep it from happening again. A lot of healing comes from that monument.
Tom Spooner, are you guys supported by private contributions or subsidies, or how do people help Warriors Heart, as we would say, keep on beating?
Yeah, so the way that we receive payments, Bill, is we go through, because it's private, we go through insurances and we have scholarships. You know, the Admission 22, you know what I mean, is a 501c3, and then we have Warriors Heart Foundation. And through those foundations, the folks that don't have the money to pay for what needs to occur in healing, we provide that for them with scholarships. And also big on the private donors.
What will people find when they go to your website, warriorsheart.com?
Well, they'll find it's something that they've never seen before whenever it comes to a treatment facility. And what that is, you know, it's 540 acres there in the hill country of Bandera, Texas. It's the opposite of a hospital environment. It was an executive retreat prior to us getting it, so the amenities are just absolutely incredible. And that's the big part of the healing, is for folks to come from one of the lowest places in their lives into a peer-to-peer network that just promotes healing. And, you know, the big thing, Bill, is that we want to just bring them home. Because a lot of folks, even though they're physically here, you know, their hearts and their minds are not. So that's what we provide out there at Warriors Heart.
Well, soldier, you get a well done, and a thank you from me for your service both on the battlefield and right here on the battlefield in these United States of America. Tom Spooner, well done. Thank you for the time, and keep up the great work with Warriors Heart.
We sure will, Bill, and thank you again for having us.
And you can find out more about the great work of Warriors Heart at their website, warriorsheart.com.